Dr. Aziz, and also thank Dr. Kasuli, Mohsen Kasuli, um, all my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. The topic of my talk is going to be not Quran and science. I've been talking on it for more than 4 decades. The question that I will be addressing is not Quran and science, is how does the Quran deal with the science? Because often my friends have asked me, you say so many things about scientific facts from the Quran, but the Quran is not a book of science. And I say, of course, the Quran is not a book of science. It's a book, it's a constitution for the whole of mankind, but it deals with science in a wonderful way. So they don't understand what the wonderful ways are, but they also understood that the facts which I said from the Quran are true. So I want to dispel this notion from the minds of many that the Quran does not address science, does not address, it addresses science most beautifully. Now, let me first of all deal with the one aspect, namely what science is and what Quran is. There's a lot of emphasis of science on truth seeking. They say we don't worry about anything else. We don't worry about the hereafter and this world and other things. We only worry about the truths that exist in nature, the various kinds of forces, the gravitational force, the electromagnetic force, the weak nuclear force, nuclear forces, and the other things, the composition of things, the interaction of things in the environment, etc., etc. I say, all right, so your emphasis is on truth. Do you know that the emphasis of truth is more than the emphasis of science? Because this emphasis in the Quran began long before the pursuit of science began, the modern day science. And then they say, all right, give some examples. I said, the Quran says this book, namely the Quran, has been revealed in truth. This is verse 2, 2 and 3, verse 3, Surah 3, verse 3, Surah 4, verse 105, Surah 3, verse 60. Those who want to write down can write down. So that's the first point. The second point is that when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was sent the revelation from God through Jibreel, been revealed to Prophet Muhammad has nothing but truth in it. It is the truth revealed to him, and he has been sent as a messenger in truth. So if you sum up the things, what stands is the Quran is revealed in truth. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent with truth, and what is revealed was revealed to him was nothing but truth. But then the scientists will say, all right, all you say about truths is true, but we want to know something more about the creation, the scientific aspects. Then I said, this also has been said in the Quran very emphatically. It is said in 44:39, the creation of the heavens and the earth and all that exists between has not been done except with truth. And another verse is 14:19. It says, do you not see that Allah created the heavens and the earth in truth? So you see in the Quran, as you go, turn the pages, you find the words bil haq, bil haq, bil haq. Truth, truth, truth. So I said to my friends, scientist friends, myself being in the profession of physics, the truth only is the meeting point of Quran and science. So the job of science is to seek the truth, and the job of the Quran is also to distinguish truth from falsehood. And one of the names of the Quran is Furqan, means farak. Now, what does it do? Separate one thing from another. It separates truth from falsehood. It separates light from darkness. It separates wrong from justice. So the next question then that comes, that posed to us is, all right, we are glad that there is so much emphasis on truth, but then what is the agenda? You know, our agenda of science and the agenda of the religions are different. I said, of course they're different. The agenda of science is very limited, only finding out the truths that exist in nature. But the agenda of the Quran is far, far wider than that. It includes science, but it includes the arts, the humanities, the religious science, and everything in the world. Everything in the world, they comes under that exists under the sun, comes under the Quran. But we in scientists deal in science only particular aspects of nature, the physical laws, chemical laws, the biological laws, the order of the natural order of the universe. So, but I then told them, are you aware of a verse in the Quran which will tell you what exactly is the agenda of the Quran and what exactly is the agenda of science? And this is those of us who are going to listen to it, I hope it will be put on the YouTube. There is a verse, 10:101, very, very important verse. In this verse, Allah asked the Holy Prophet of Islam to say to the people, قُلْ انظُرُوا مَا ذَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Ask the people to pay attention to everything that exists between the heavens and the earth. Mark the words. Ask them to pay attention to everything between the heavens and the earth. If Muslims people just obeyed this verse, followed this verse very seriously, they would not be what they are today. They would be very possible, the most intelligent and most knowledgeable people in the world, most scientific people in the world. So in this, when they say, look at everything between the heavens and the earth, I tell my scientist friends, this is exactly your agenda. To study everything between the heavens and the earth. And what does everything mean? Everything has a very, very wide connotation. It means from the small to the very large. And this is also written in the Quran. It says that the Allah has knowledge of the unseen, about the smallest of the small, zarratin. He said it's zarratin, and the biggest of the big. And now we know what the range is in this everything. It is from 10 to the power minus 14 centimeter, 1 divided by 1 followed by 14 zeros. It's a mind-boggling small things, and right up to 10 to the power 28 centimeter, 1 followed by 28 centimeter. That's also very big on a scale of vastness. And the words in the Quran is zarratin, means atom, very small. And then it says, wala asgaru min zalika. That means that atom, that is small things. Even smaller than, we have sagir and we have akbar. The sagir is a small and akbar is great. He said, we have smaller than that. There is a smaller than that Allah knows. And la akbaru illa fi kitabim mubin, in the book. So it says that this is exactly the range of scales on which scientists are working. 10 to the power minus 14 centimeter, right up to 10 to the 28 centimeter. And very recently, you have known about the God particle, the Higgs boson. It is also one of the missing particles of the standard model, and the size is again of the very, very small sizes I mentioned, the smaller size. So once I say that the agenda of science and the agenda of the Quran, insofar as exploring the physical order of the universe, cannot be different, my friends asked me a third question. He said, look, we all agree with you, but you must know that our basis is query. The basis of science is query, and the basis of religion of Quran is faith. I say, you are absolutely right. The query is the basis of science, and the faith is the basis of religion. Also, the Holy Quran insists on iman, yuminuna bil ghaibi. So you have to have faith. Now, the question is, I say to my friends, the question that you can ask is there a conflict between queries and faith, between query and Quran? So they can't answer, and I did provide an answer. It is given by Allah in Quran. Most Muslims tend to think, oh, if it is in the Quran, follow it. Of course we must follow it. This is part of our iman. As I said in the beginning, this is truth from the Lord of the universe. So there's nothing wrong with it. But then the human mind always had queries. So the question is, does the Quran support query or not? It supports query. Unlike the opinions of many, it supports query. And where do I get the support from? It is from verse 2260. You know, there was this our Lord Abraham. We all is a Millat Abraham. Lord Abraham was wondering. We all are here. We are born, but we die, and then Allah gathers us together. So he said, "Oh Lord, how do you give life to the dead?" And Allah said, "Oh Abraham, don't you believe this?" And Abraham said something which is very appealing. He said, "Oh my Lord, I do believe that you can make the living out of the dead, but this is only for the satisfaction of my own soul. It is for the satisfaction of my qalb that I am asking you this question." Then the Lord said, all right, take 4 birds and cause them to incline to you. Means let the birds be tamed by you properly, and then place a part of them in each hill and call them. They would come back to you in haste, and when that Allah is mighty wise. So these are matters of details, but the main question is, why did it say incline to you? You know, when you just tame a bird, you know it's all its secrets. When it will eat, when it will bite you, when it will be singing, when it is very sorry, unhappy bird, what are his wants. So you know everything about the bird. And so Allah knows everything amongst our minds, amongst our bodies, everything. He started us from nowhere. Our forefathers ate food, and then they had nutrition. They created some cells, reproductive cells. We were born, we'll be here, and again we'll go away. So Allah knows the secrets of how we came into being. So it's not impossible for him to gather us together again. But then The next question is how, all right, the Quran insists on truth, science insists on truth. The science has a limited agenda of finding out the natural order of the universe. Quran also lays considerable emphasis. In fact, 1/8 of the Holy Quran is devoted to science and technology, to the queries. Now, how does the next question that comes, how does the Quran convey facts of science? Because the scientists, they say we have a method of doing science. Science is like a cosmic onion. They make one query, and that one query leads to another query. In an ordinary onion, if we peel it a few times, it's all gone. But the knowledge, the scientific knowledge, has been like a cosmic onion. You peel one part, another things comes in. But with these queries, we have gone a lot, we have made a lot of progress. Remember 120 years ago, not even a little more than 100 years ago, man didn't know how to fly. 80 years ago or 90 years ago, man didn't know that there's a thing called neutron in the atomic nucleus. Man didn't know the constitution of the grand molecule of life, the mysterious DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, before 70 years. Then he didn't land on the moon before 70 years. And the microprocessor had not begun before 50 years ago. And all these antibiotics, they're not more than 80 years old, even much lesser. All the telecommunications and everything, they only started a few days ago. So man has achieved a lot in science, but only to realize that what we have achieved is a tiny, tiny portion of what is yet to be achieved. I myself found that 40 years ago, I knew too much. I thought I knew too much. But as I started delving into the secrets of nature, into the depths of physics and other branches of science, I now find that I know very, very little. I know almost nothing. So that is the kind of things. But again, I tell my friends, science friends, that since you insist on knowing how does the Quran convey facts of science, let me tell you, how does it do it? It operates through a number of grand principles. I can name 4 grand principles which exist in the Quran, but I won't have time to elaborate on all of them. Let me just elaborate on one of them. One of the grand principles are, nothing has been created for nothing. The second grand principle is, all things have been created in pairs. The other grand principle is the least principle. We have the least principle of least path in optics. We have the principle of least energy, and we also have the principle of least consumption of things in life as laid in the Quran. Then also, there is another grand principle, creation of all things and ordering them in due principle, due proportions. This is a matter of lifestyle, and if time permits, I'll come back to it. Now, how does for example, this grand principle, how does it operate? I said the Quran conveys facts of science to the grand principle. If you go to Surah Imran, Surah 3 and verses 190, 191, it says, Inna fi khalq as-samawati wal ard wa ikhtilafi al-layli wan nahari la لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون يتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. Now I'm quoting the relevant portion. Those who lie down, pray, or sit, or lie down on the sides, reflecting, pondering over nature, will have said, "O my Lord, not for naught hast thou created all this." Now this is a very important pronouncement and has tremendous, tremendous implications for our existence in this world. Not for naught hast thou created all this. When there's nothing that has not been created for without a purpose. Now, if you expand this, it becomes a great volume of ecology. Now, this gentleman who deals with ecology, we call him an ecologist. Ecology is the science of interaction between all livings and all non-living things. Then the totality of science between living and non-living things, that is called the ecology. The ecologist, the modern ecologist, probably hasn't gone to the Quran, probably hasn't learned anything about the Quran, but he says something that in modern day ecology, it is found that nothing has been created for nothing. Now, you know, there are 30 million life forms. In crore, this is 3 crores of life forms. A lizard is one life form. A banyan tree is a life form. A butterfly is a life form. A rose is a life form. So, and altogether, there are 30 million life forms of animal and plant type. We scientists have only studied 5 millions of them. The rest 25 millions, we have not yet had the time and the knowledge and the comprehensions to understand them. But it is agreed upon by all that all the members of this family, the 30 million members of the entire biotic world, biotic family, they have interactions, very, very complicated and complex interactions between them, which we humans have not yet been able to understand properly. Now, if we make some of these life forms extinct, then it may cause a jeopardy to our own existence. Our own existence will be in jeopardy. Now, this is a feeling of the modern ecologist. And the modern ecologist, they have developed a philosophy called eco-philosophy. Previously, our philosophy was live and let live. This slogan was restricted to the members of the human family. Now, following the Quran, I suppose, that the ecologists have now extended to all members of the biotic family. 30 million life forms have a right to exist in this world. That is a grand principle in the Quran. And as I said, if we expand bits and pieces of it, and it has reference to fishes, it has reference to animals, it has reference to plants, it has reference to human beings. And so being the vicegerent or vice-regent, either way it makes sense, the Khalifa of Allah, if we don't take care of these things, then this world, then our existence may not be sustainable. So that is one agenda. There's another thing. This is very interesting also. Everything has been created in pairs, and this is mentioned in Surah Yasin. Subhanallazi khalaqal azwaja كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن and then the males and females in animals, also males and females in the botanical world, the male flower, female flower, and then last of it says, and things of which you have no knowledge. So God has created things in pairs, and that need not be biological. God has created everything in pairs. Now, in recent years, not really in recent years, it's after the found mechanics in 1920 by some great masters, including Paul Dirac from Cambridge, we found that all the elementary particles of nature, they have every elementary particle is created in pair. Now, the standard model, which has been established, unifying some of the forces, the gravitation is still out of it, they says that the universe is created of the small particles. There are the 6 types of quarks, then the electron, neutrino, and the tau, and the corresponding neutrinos, and some other particles. The missing one was the Higgs boson, which was created, and the photon. So these are the elementary particles. Now, the standard model says that every particle has an antiparticle. The electron has the antiparticle positron. The antiparticle of the photon is the photon itself. And then the proton is the antiproton. Neutron is antineutrino. So every particle has this antiparticle. Now look, these things were not mentioned. The names were given to these things by men scientists. But God knew these things. A thing is known not by its name, but by its properties. The Quran refers to things, mentions only those names, not even oxygen, nitrogen, because those were discovered only in the second half of the 18th century, and 1 or 2 things in the first half and the 17th century. So all these things were not, although existing, and Allah used these things in maintaining and sustaining the worlds, but He never mentioned these things because people didn't know their names. So these names have come now, but the properties Allah knew in the past, Allah knows now, and it is all known now, the properties of these things. And so He said that everything is created in pairs, and of things that you know not. Because when it was said that we didn't know, but as science has progressed, we have known. So you see, this is again another branch of particle physics, which makes use of these grand principles. Now I will leave these grand principles and go to another things called Allah conveys facts through sign, S-I-G-N-S, a sign that you put on your checkbook, on your checks. When you write a check, this check is honored only when you sign it. Now, this sign is called ayat in the Quran. And what do we say about ayats in the Quran? We say that there are about 6,666 ayat in the Holy Quran. And that was known for quite some time. But now people say the number of ayats is 6,236. This depends on whether the Bismillah that occurs at the beginning of every surah is counted as a verse or not. Anyway, we call that there are 6,236 ayats. But the question is, big question is, how many times is this word ayat mentioned in the Quran, and in what context? So I'm asking brothers and sisters to do, as a senior brother, I'm asking all of you to do a simple exercise. Take a piece of paper, take the Holy Quran, start at the Surah Fatiha. No, the word ayat doesn't occur. Then it go to verse Surah Baqarah 2164. Yes, this ayat, this says al yalamun, alimin, yakilun. So the ayats, the ayatil. Now the ayat. So here is the word ayat. Then you go through all the verses and end right up to Surah Nas. So what is the task? Is take a pencil and a paper, go through the verses, and wherever the surah ayat, the word ayat is mentioned, make a dot, number it, that this surah, this verse, and what is mentioned as an ayat. I have done this exercise. I've done this exercise, and in this exercise, the things that have been called ayat, they belong to the physical and biological world. They belong to alternation of night and day. They belong to cattle, the clouds and range, colors and language, creation of men, flight of birds, honey bee, milk, the ripening of the fruits, the variety in creation, creation of the sun and the moon, and their subjection to man. These are the topics of faith. So calling them as ayah by Allah means science, SCIENCE. Science is the sign of Allah, SIGNS. So science is the science of Allah. If you have doubts, I read a verse from the Surah Baqarah. The Arabic tendering is this: Inna fi khalqa samawati wal ardi waqtilafi al-layli wan nahari wal fulki allati tajri fil bahri bima yanfa'u an-nasa wa ma anjala Allahu min as-sama'i min ma'i fa ayya bihi al-arda ba'da mawtiha wa bassa fiha min kulli da'ab وتصريف الرياح والسحاب المسخر بين السماء والأرض لآيات للياقلون. For a people who have aql. This Quran is not is not for people, as they call be'aql in Bengali, means those who have not aql. This Quran is for people with aql. Is not for be'aql people, without the layat. So these are signs. Now, what does it do? For example, the things that you mentioned, the creation of heavens and earth, this falls under cosmology, the astrophysics, astronomy, mathematics, the alternation of night and day. This is geography and meteorology. The sailing of ships in the ocean reminds one of the discovery of Archimedes and is dealt with in fluid dynamics. The revival of the earth after rainfall, that is dealt with in weather science, botany, and agriculturists. The dispersion of all kinds of animals that's mentioned here is a matter of zoology and genetics, and the change of change of clouds is dealt with in meteorology and weather science. Thus, it is these sciences which have been called ayat, this SIGNS, signs of Allah. So the entire creation is a holy book. The entire creation is a book, as a creation, a book, and entire creation is a sign of Allah. Science is the sign of Allah. Then my scientist friends, they say, they get impressed, and they said, we didn't know that much right now. But there are other things. Science has progressed. And as I said, things of which people had no knowledge have now come to the fore. We have now known there are two questions which younger generations want to know in great details. One is, and these two questions are, how did the universe begin? The second question is, how did life begin? These are not only the questions of science, physicists, and mathematicians, and other scientists. These are the questions from the young generations in every walk of life. These questions have now been, they're known as the cultural quest of mankind. They have become part of the cultural quest of mankind. Where did the universe come from? And how did life begin? And very surprisingly, these questions have been dealt with very, very wisely in the Quran. Creation of the universe is a sign of Allah. This is mentioned as a sign of Allah in 2:164, 3:90, Surah 3, verse 90, 30:22, 30:27, and the creation of life is 30:20, Surah 30, verse 20, 6, verse 2, as a sign of Allah. And now we know. Then my friend said, all right, what do they say about the creation? I said, it will say something about the creation which you have not thought. It said the universe had a beginning. All the heavens and the earth in Surah Anbiya, the Surah 21, verse 30. أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. The heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit, and we cleft them asunder and made every living being from water. We physicists, I mean, not those who believe in the Quran, they are the physicists who don't worry about religion. They're a little unhappy about the beginning because they don't find the sort of, in terms of causality, what could happen to this explosion. And immediately afterwards, there's a very, very tiny blob of matter, ultra small, ultra hot, and ultra dense, and from which everything was created and from what we are now. But then they think that the first cause is the will of Allah. When He says kun, and kun fayakun it is. So there's an astronomer called Robert Jastrow. He said that the religious people have found an answer to this, the first cause, long before the scientists. We scientists know everything after 10 to the power minus 43 seconds. That means after the Planck's time. We know it Planck's time. But it all happened, and the things that we don't know, below the time period of 10 to the minus 43 seconds, we call it singularity. Now, I'm mentioning, and I'll just end after a couple of minutes, saying what this has implications for us. The Big Bang Theory was proposed long ago. One of the proposers was Lemaître, who was working in a church, Lemaître. And then Friedman, Gamow, a lot of people worked on it, including Einstein. Now, how did you know that the universe actually began like that? Well, there's one little fact that is called the expansion of the universe. There are galaxies. There are 100 million galaxies And in each galaxy, in our own galaxy, Milky Way, there are more than 1 billion stars in that galaxy. So these galaxies, after they have been formed, they're receding from each other. The galaxies are receding from each other. And there is a verse which says, and it's very interesting, this verse, it says, 51:47 is called, we have built this firmament with power and skill, and we expand motion. Now, how do you know that the universe is expansion? Well, this is called the red shift, and I will spend the next couple of minutes in the following way. When, in order to understand this, you have to place yourself at a railway station. When the train comes from a long distance, it says jig 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 jig, and it's a very shrill sound. So the train leaves at this stops at the station, and then listen to the sound again. The train is the sound emitter, the engine. When the train is going away from you, then the frequency is not all that high. What does it mean? That when a source of it is called the Doppler shift, means when a source of sound or source of light is going away, they're going away from each other, then there is called a red shift. That means the wavelength of the radiation that they're emitting gets broadened. That means get longer, the wavelength gets longer. If the wavelength gets longer, we call it the red, we call it even greater than that is the infrared. We call it red. So it is, whether it is an emitter of light or emitter of sound, the broadening of the wavelength or the lessening of the frequency, this is called Doppler shift. This Doppler shift was found and then the expansion of the universe was confirmed. And as you know, in 1963, Wilson and Penzias found evidence for the cosmic background micro radiation of 3 degrees Kelvin, and this established the Big Bang theory. The Quran has reference to it. It has reference to it. It also has a reference to dying stars and the mechanism of the thermonuclear reactions with which the energy is emitted and the hydrogen in the sun is consumed daily to give us energy. But this is all about the wonderful evidence about the red shift that's mentioned in the Quran. So when I mention all this, they say, they become very pleased. Now the last question that I want to, I mean, there are other questions, but the last important question is, who are the my question I've phrased in this, who are the practitioners? Who are the practitioners of science and who are the practitioners of religion? Are there different kinds of people? No. We think that the alims are the practitioners of Islam. Those are alim. Believe me, I looked for a long time about who has been termed as an alim in the Quran. Allah is Alimun Hakim, Halimul Hakim, Alimul Ghaib. Allah is the greatest of all alim that we can think of. But whom he calls alim, this is Surah 30, Surah verse 30, Surah Rum 30 and verse 22. And I will end by saying that it says that inna fi khalqis samawati wal ard wa ikhtilafu alsinatikum o alwanikum inna fi zalika la ayatin lil alimin. means in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the creation of languages, and the creation of colors, black, white, brown, black, sort of yellow, and all these colors and several other colors are science for alims, for the alims, that is in plural. So what do these things, the creation of the scientists, the creation of cosmology, the creation of the heavens and the earth, the creation of color, substance, these are dealt with in hard science. So the hard scientists are called alimin. So they, in Islam, the practitioners of knowledge, the practitioners of ilm, the practitioners of the religion are one and the same. We have divided ourselves. Scientists think they only will study this and the other people, but there was a time, the early Muslims, who looked upon science and religion in a totalistic view, in an integral view as ilm, and that was called science in general. So with that, I just end my little presentation, just outline. I hope I've been able to show that how the Quran, not being a book of science in which you go to find Planck's law or Ohm's law or this and that, how the book of science, how the Quran acts as a book of science without mentioning scientific facts, but giving indications which are very far-reaching consequence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.